thank you guys for hosting and having me today. We're talking about mentorship. That's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I couldn't have done anything without having bouncing boards to talk to and throw ideas out and all that good stuff. So I have a presentation about mentorship. It'll start with kind of telling you a little bit about myself and my journey, kind of what I've been doing, how I got to kind of where I'm at right now in my life. The mentors that have helped me along the way, and you'd be surprised they come from interesting places. It's not just the obvious professional network. Some interesting stats about women in technology, some ideas of I think what women should be doing, what companies should be doing, and we should encourage our companies to be doing. And then I compiled a couple of life lessons, I guess, that I've learned in my professional career. I think some of you guys might already be living by those mottos, and maybe some of them might give you a chuckle, but they're just my honest feedback on what I've experienced, thus far. I have a lot of years left in me, but I think I've crammed a lot in the last 15 years or so. So hopefully it'll be useful for the folks on the call. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see it okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. So a little bit about myself. I started Sphere 11 years ago. I actually came from financial services. I was at Lehman Brothers. I was there during the bankruptcy, and I could talk for hours about what went on during that time. But if you guys remember, there were a handful of different banks that bought parts of the Lehman umbrella. And on the technology side, I was running a SWAT team that had to figure out how do you desegregate all the IT assets based on what company bought parts of the Lehman umbrella. So think about like a 150-plus-year-old company, 50,000 employees all over the world. Technology is very centralized. And we had to figure out who gets what servers, who gets what email boxes, who gets what SharePoint sites, who gets what group drives, like you name it, we looked at it. And nobody had ever done this before. Surely there was M&A activities where you had to bring in a company into your own, but there was never really this scenario where overnight one of the biggest institutional banks in the world goes bankrupt and 5 different companies bought different parts of it. So very interesting. We had very little time to figure it out. It was just like, here are all the tools at your disposal. Go see what data they give you, see how you can combine it, see how you can answer these fundamental questions. And essentially what I did when I started the company was I thought, hey, you know what? Like I learned how to use all these different tools that are kind of market leaders in different spaces. I learned how to combine the data. I learned the questions that people were asking at very senior levels of the organization. Some of them seem pretty simple in nature, like how much data do I have, right? Sounds simple. Nobody can answer. How many mailboxes do we have? How many file systems do we have? Who's using them? And I realized that all these other banks probably need to answer similar questions, even if they aren't going bankrupt and having to desegregate all these assets. Also, the regulatory environment, especially for financial services, became incredibly stringent at the same time. Banks were being forced to pay attention to who has access to what data. They were forced to protect sensitive data. They were forced to prove that they're protecting customer data. Everybody started to get very, very scared of data breaches, whether it was an intruder coming in from the outside and stealing data, or a disgruntled employee on the inside having access to things they shouldn't, and then either leaking it to the media or selling it on the black market. And then there's this concept of ransomware that started to wreak havoc. And this is intruders that aren't just coming into your network and quietly stealing stuff. They're like locking data down, asking for ransom, saying, I'm here, come pay me, and that's when I'll give you your data back. So all of this kind of compounded and made these large enterprises that are heavily regulated start to have to focus on this area. So maybe it was a little bit of luck, maybe good timing, but kind of the space that I thought I wanted to focus on became pretty important to these big organizations. And I kind of started to chug along and doing quite well. Bootstrap company, by the way, self-funded. And what got really interesting is as we started to work with more and more big banks, started to do more and more of these projects around assessing an environment or cleaning up issues that we're finding in an environment, we started to find that there are ways that we can take some shortcuts and that we can automate some of the requirements that we found were pretty consistent company to company. So instead of doing the same thing over and over again, we found ways to automate do more of the heavy lifting programmatically. And we started to tinker with, building out little scripts and drips and drabs of code. And those became toolkits that our engineers would use when they went on site to do these types of projects. And over time, it started to become a platform, and the customers started to pay a lot of attention, and they started to ask, interesting questions like, hey, you guys automated all of this reporting for us. And when this assessment's done, how are we going to maintain all of this reporting? Or they'd ask us questions about, hey, you cleaned up this big mountain of security issues. We're naive to think they won't happen again. So can we use this product on an ongoing basis? And we're like, product? We have a product? Okay, cool. And we decided to leverage revenue from the services business to essentially self-fund, fully productizing the solution. We did that successfully. We released the first GA version of our product about 4 years ago. So kind of cool. We are at that point a software and a services company. And in our industry, dealing with the type of companies we deal with, that's pretty rare. For a number of reasons, but it's almost like running two companies at the same time. But we're doing a really good job, and that caught the eye and attention of some big money people out there. And last year, started to have some more serious conversations with different venture capital and private equity organizations, more casually than prescriptively. But there was one in specific that did a regular touch point with myself, and he asked me some pretty targeted questions. What do you want to do in 5 years? If money wasn't an obstacle, what would be your next step for the next 6 months? And really got me thinking about the possibilities and moving from more of a lifestyle business into something that is significantly much higher and faster growth rate. So I didn't have a pitch deck. They worked with me from February till about October, putting it together, doing due diligence. And at the end of last year, we did close a large late stage Series A with Forge Point Capital. They are the largest US cybersecurity investor, and I think with the funds that they're building out now, will eventually be the largest in the world. And they're a very unique organization, and they partner with companies like ours. They don't focus very much on early stage, probably more mid to late stage companies, and they help take them to the next level. Kind of interesting because we were their first fully virtual investment. Typically, when these VCs invest in companies, they want to meet the founder. If the founder is the officer of the company, they want to meet the leadership team. They want to get a feel for how you operate, the culture of your company. And obviously during COVID, that wasn't an option, and they still have to do business. So we were their first ones that we were able to get the message across of our value proposition, via Zoom meetings. And also kind of cool, Spear and myself were the first female CEO founder in their portfolio. So pretty cool, very excited. And, I'm helping them look for more companies that have, female CEO founders as well. So that's a little bit about myself. I think I have good instincts, but I surely don't know it all. I started my company at 25, so I definitely knew nothing then. But I knew I had an idea. I knew I had drive and ambition, and I knew that I wanted to be successful, whatever that may mean. So I started to think about, how can I get the right advice? I didn't exactly have a network of female CEO founders around me to talk to. I definitely go online and join different social media groups, but that's a little bit impersonal. Maybe you asked a couple targeted questions, but like, how do you really kind of be transparent, honest, talk about your fears, talk about what makes you tick, brag about your successes? How do you do that, right? And try to work towards your goals. So I made a list of the people that mentored me, and I might give folks an idea of who they can reach out to ask for help and advice. And some of them, again, come from not orthodox places. So first, my mom. I could not have started a company without my mother encouraging me. It doesn't have to be a mom or a dad. It could be a brother or a sister, a family member, just somebody you've known for a while. But you need somebody to push you, because you're always going to doubt yourself. So what I found, I'm my biggest critic, and I think a lot of people feel that way. And having somebody from the outside just kind of give you that little push, give you that confidence is very important. And I attribute all of that to my mom. I had a friend that started a business, and granted, when I started mine, he was well ahead. His business was about 15 years old. But when I told him I wanted to start my business, he said, let me see your business plan. And I said, huh? What's a business plan? So he goes, I'm not going to give you one, but I want you to Google it, download a template, fill it out however best you can, and then I'll look at it and I'll give you my feedback. Well, the funny thing is, when we moved offices a couple of years ago, I found my original business plan that I wrote. And let me tell you, it was atrocious. It was so bad. It was almost funny. We framed a couple pages in the office because it was so ridiculous. But it taught me that I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And that's the biggest lesson I learned from writing that business model. I learned I need to learn about marketing. I learned I needed to learn about finance. I learned I needed to learn about sales and account management and all that stuff that you just don't get exposure to at a big bank, which is where I came from. So he really opened my eyes to the fact that I may have a cool idea that may resonate in like an initial meeting, but from an execution perspective, there's a lot to think about. You don't have to have all the answers figured out right away, but they have to be buried somewhere over here. And eventually you'll have to kind of pick at that part of your brain and start to come forward with some ideas to solve, some of those lingering questions. Adnan Charcher, somebody I met through social networking through the New Jersey Technology Council, kind of a friend of somebody that was there. Somebody just said, hey, I think you should know this guy. He's a fintech CEO. He is looking to advise a few companies. I think you and him would hit it off. And we did. And he became like literally my work therapist. Like I would vent and just diarrhea of the mouth of anything that was bothering me, as minor or as big as you can imagine. Something from as simple as the guy downstairs messed up my lunch and now I don't have time to eat, to, oh my gosh, I have a major HR issue on my hands and I have no idea how to handle it. And just having him, knowing that there's somebody there that you can ask questions to, that's not going to judge you, that doesn't impact your business at all, is awesome. And by the way, this guy now is one of my board of directors. So he followed me along the journey through my Series A. He actually helped me close the deal and create very favorable terms for myself. And he's still very much a part of my journey. A customer. So that's very unorthodox because I think you put on a very unique front to the people that are paying your bills. You don't want to let them in on what's happening under the water. That classic picture of the duck above, cool, collected underneath. They're going crazy like this, right? You don't want your customers to be alarmed. But sometimes you might get lucky and a customer might also be a friend. And there might be situations where you can ask for their advice, ask for their opinion, maybe pitch an idea at them and they'll tell you if they think you're crazy. So this specific person, Ramin, a good friend, worked with him at Lehman, then became a customer later. And I've always been able to bounce all sorts of ideas his way, and he gives me great advice. So I consider him an awesome mentor. Jen is my best friend. I've known her for years. I trust her immensely. I can talk about anything also. And sometimes there are people problems at work. This person made you angry. These people are fighting over there. You can't get sales and delivery to blend together, whatever. I talk to her as a friend, like, hey, at your company, and by the way, she's an accountant at a hospital. Nothing to do with cybersecurity, nothing to do with like anything I do, but every business has people problems and every business has bureaucracy and every business has rivalries and cliques and silly things like that you have to kind of battle through. And I talk to her about that stuff and she gives me her opinion and it helps, right? Don't always agree, but the opinion, the other perspective is very powerful in terms of your decision making. And finally, my first boss, Chad, this guy was a rock star. And he's the one that saw something in me early on, gave me an opportunity, kind of pushed me up to help me even during the bankruptcy. He put on this team that was very interesting, very unique. And I'm able to now talk about those stories of what I went through in a lot of depth because he saw something that he thought showed him that I can do it. And I owe him a lot because I think those stories are how I was able to capture the attention of some of my initial customer base, which was within financial services. So again, the mentorship, it's not immediately who's in front of you. Like, think about who you trust. Think about who's smart that you know, right? Who's made it? Who kind of has experience in an area that you don't, or that you want to learn from. So I always think those are great places to look for mentors. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, women in technology. So, there's some pretty interesting stats that we compiled, and I think that some of it is probably well known, others a little bit less. But I'm a big believer that women are analytical thinkers. We're very task oriented. We're excellent at multitasking as well. We're able to compartmentalize, and we're able to kind of push through problems with a steady mind, a steady hand, and we can think very objectively. And I think that serves itself so well to STEM, right? To engineering, to the sciences. So it surprises me that so few young women are interested in the field. But I think because of groups like this, because of all sorts of educational programs in the system, in the public school system, all of the media attention surrounding women in diversity, women in the workforce, I think that'll change. I hope it'll change. But I think more women need to get involved in this industry. I think all of the characteristics that are just natural to us lend themselves so well to being interesting minds and thinkers in unfortunately this very male-dominated world. I also tell women that are interested in technology but that might be nervous that they're the minority in the industry, that's not always the worst thing in the world. It's okay to stand out. It's okay to be different. Like, why should that be a bad thing? And the more folks that do it, those ratios will get much closer, right? So I'm a big believer in encouraging it. I talk to any young woman that I can, my nieces, people's daughters, you name it, to just encourage them. Like, if they love math, they love science, just give it a go. And the reality is too, something that scares, young women going into college is they think that whatever they choose as their major is their destiny for life. And in the world that we live in, it's just not true anymore. My head of product, the guy who runs the entire software solution at my company, he's graduated with a marketing degree. Now he runs a huge software development shop, a huge R&D team. He didn't go to school for that. I went to school for computer science and mathematics, not cybersecurity whatsoever, right? So again, you need to encourage other women to think about these fields, that it's okay that you're not the majority. It's okay to stand out. It's okay to be different, and give it a go if you think about math and sciences and that excites you. Going back to mentorship, 76% of people believe that having a mentor is very important, but less than half of people have one. And I think there are a few reasons for that. One, we're busy. We have kids and family and dogs, and there's COVID in the world. And, you read the news, you want to just like turn it off. Like, there's just so much going on. And it's easy to like put that to the side, right? So I think that if you really, really believe that you can get value from mentoring or being a mentor, like, take it seriously, put the time in. I know for me personally, those folks that I listed on that slide, I wouldn't be able to succeed if I didn't talk to them. And I can't pinpoint it to one exact conversation with any of them. It's just them being around. It's just people that you build relationships with. And the other thing that I've heard, and I've kind of seen myself too, is if you ask someone to be a mentor and maybe you don't know them that well just yet, you're not going to click on day one, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that the mentorship is not going to be valuable. It takes people time to get to know each other and to feel comfortable. So don't be discouraged about the process. And then again, the 1 in 10 women that don't mentor because of family commitments, I get it, but we can also be smart about it, right? We can organize ourselves. We can plan in advance, right? We can do things to ease into it as well. So if you can be a mentor, or if you need a mentor, don't shy away from it because of those reasons. Something I believe women need to do, obviously embrace the role of being a mentor, And also, if you are a mentor, that doesn't mean that you don't have your own mentor still as well. Everybody needs help at some point or all the time, maybe. And don't wait for somebody to come to you, right? Like, go and ask and be proactive about it. Like, it's easy again to brush things to the side, but if you ask, you do not get unless you ask. So make sure you're out there actively talking to people, meeting people, and engaging in conversation. And obviously, like, be open-minded, continue to accept invitations from others. And again, it might not even be somebody in your professional industry. It could be your best friend, right? That's still a mentor. You still can be a mentor to that person. And something that I think organizations need to do, maybe focus on a formal mentoring program. Companies can start on the inside. I know for us specifically, we pair people up that want to be paired up, to kind of force folks to pay attention to some of these areas. And what I've seen is the folks that are participating in mentorship, not only are they more excited and more productive, but the soft skills get better too. So people get more comfortable speaking up. They get more comfortable sharing ideas because they've kind of tried it behind the curtains with somebody beforehand. And then you build confidence, and then you may not even need a mentor for some of the ideas that you may have that you want to bring forward. And, obviously continuous encouragement, focus on, talking about mentoring and talking about being mentored. I think the best way to spread the values of mentorship is to talk about the positivity you've experienced from being mentored as well. So we should be open and embrace things. Nothing is easy. Nobody can do anything all alone. And there's no shame in saying that you have a mentor at all. Some lessons I've learned along the way that have helped me, some from my own experience and others from mentors. One, never burn a bridge. I can't say this enough. I've learned this from my own experiences, of course, but my mentors, it's one of the first things like they say to you. Even if somebody is being too much or being too aggressive or asking too much of you, think before you speak and don't burn that bridge. You never know if that person might go to a different company or you need a referral or whatever it might be. It's always better to take the high road. I truly believe that. I've seen people getting burned by burning a bridge. So I that's part of kind of my core ethos is never to burn a bridge. Always be kind and be thoughtful. People want to help people they like. I was 25 years old when I started my company, and I decided to sell to the most difficult industry to get into in the world, which is big banking. And how do you get executive with 25 years of experience, more experience than your age, to trust you and to want to give you an opportunity and want to give you a chance? They have to like you. That's just humanity in general, I think. But when it comes to business and when it comes to being a woman and wanting to push forward, people have to like you in order to give you the chance, especially when you're just starting out. So I'm a big believer, just be kind, be thoughtful, and kind of always have that somewhere in your brain. I always think do more than the other person on the other side of the table, right? People respect you for it. They're more willing to go the extra mile. I mentor a couple of people, and the ones that kind of come prepared, they ask me questions. They don't expect me to do all the legwork. It makes me want to do more legwork. It makes me want to think outside of the box about what I can do for them, because I feel that they're taking it seriously. And when I was being mentored as well, I did the same thing as well. The example I gave with the business plan with the gentleman, Ray, he gave me a little bit of advice, but I spent months writing the business plan, and I came prepared and presented it to him in a clean, concise way. And he gave me a couple more pointers. And then I ended up finding that he read the whole darn thing himself, because he saw that I put the attention into it, that I put the energy into it. So I always think, don't just try to do bare minimum, like go above and beyond, because it'll make people want to work with you. It'll make people want to spend the time and energy and carve out, their very precious time to help you. There's no easy path. I wish there was an easy path. I wish there was an easy button for life. But definitely not in business. Like, I can tell you that 100%. There is always a roadblock. There is always an obstacle. Your head is always going to feel like it's going to explode, but you just got to push forward. And you have to remember that sometimes the hardest paths are the ones that teach you the most, and they're the most worthwhile, and you appreciate your successes the most. This is something I learned from Adnan, who was one of my mentors, because I would complain to him all the time. Why is this so hard? Why aren't people listening? Why doesn't the customer understand? Why this? Why that? He's like, there's no easy answer, Rita. You just got to figure out a way to convince them that your strategy is the right one, right? And with a lot of other stuff around it. Go with your gut. So, being a computer science and math major, I'm very analytical. I want everything supported by data. I want to see all the facts in front of me. And what I've learned is I usually come to the same conclusion. But what I did was I wasted a lot of time. So when you feel comfortable, and I'm not saying do this haphazardly, but if you feel really strongly about something, time is money. Sometimes decisions are made too late, right? Just go with it, but try to make sure that you're right. And if you find yourself making a lot of poor decisions, maybe reevaluate your gut. But what I've definitely in the last at least 5 years, I tend to go with my gut more than what the data on a piece of paper tells me. And it served me well. So again, it takes time, it takes self-reflection. But once you kind of have the knack for it, it'll help you progress significantly faster than you could have otherwise. Overanalyzing sometimes is the worst thing you can do. For every yes, there are 50 no's that come before it. Don't get discouraged. This is natural. Somebody told, actually, Adnan, again, I'm giving him a lot of kudos today. He said to me, if it was easy and everyone said yes, you wouldn't be special. And I said, that's actually a great way of thinking about it. If it was easy, like the fourth bullet here, and everyone said yes, there'd be 1,000 cybersecurity companies that do what we do, right? The reason we're unique and the reason we've survived 11 years bootstrapped and then we got a big investment and now we're in hyper growth mode is because we battled through all the no's. And we still get a lot of no's, don't get me wrong. It's not all peaches and daisies all day, every day. But you gotta just keep pushing forward. It's okay to cry. I cry all the time, just don't tell anyone. I always say, like, it's okay to be emotional, like whatever your job is, whatever your role is, whatever is going on in your life, you gotta let it out. But in the business world, what I found is people want to see a leader that's cool, calm, and collected. And they want to feel that you've got it covered, that you've got it all under control. But then when you get home, it's okay to cry. Like, it's okay to freak out. It's okay to talk to your best friend about this issue or whomever is one of your mentors. So it's okay to be emotional, but you gotta, like, at one point say, I'm done being emotional, wipe the tears away, and keep moving forward. Don't be jealous. There are going to be other people that are going to have better luck than you, maybe have an easier path, maybe just good timing in some areas that you didn't have that luxury. And don't be jealous. It's a waste of time. Figure out how to copycat what they've done and keep inching forward. And don't complain. Nobody likes complainers. I've learned that because I used to be one. So the best way to achieve your goals, I think, and I learned this from also my mentors, is stop comparing yourself to others. Stop asking why him or why her and not me, and just figure out a way to get what you want. Mistakes are okay. I think people think that you can never make a mistake, or if you make a mistake, you'll be fired, or if you make a mistake, your business is going to die. I've had many times where I'm like, oh my God, I think my business could go under because that terrible decision I made, and it didn't. You move past it. The hair on fire moment that we feel, that anxiety when something goes terribly awry, it goes away. We're humans. We're smart people. We'll solve the problem. Every issue has a solution, and you just got to think like that. But the best thing you could do is, once you're kind of past it, look back, reflect, think about what could have changed your mind and at what point, and just try to apply what you've learned, to to whatever the scenarios it is in case it happens again. Pay attention to the little things. This isn't just like at work, like even in sales, you know, when you're talking to a customer or you're talking to an investor, remember the little things. People love when you remember a story they shared a year ago, you know, about a kid and a college exam or things like that. I always used to tell people when you go see someone in an office setting, pay attention to what's on their desk. Do they have a favorite sports team? You know, do they have a big family? Do their kids like to draw crazy pictures and they pin it up? People want to help people they like, and caring about people's personal lives, I think, drives that message home. We're all humans at the end of the day. Obviously, in our professional lives, we have specific roles and responsibilities, but we're still humans. And especially in this COVID era, our personal lives and our business lives are like totally crisscrossed, right? You know, pay attention if you're on a Zoom call and you see a dog barking and they're kind of shooing them away. Ask them what breed the dog is, how old the dog is, you know, make people feel comfortable and pay attention to those little things. And honestly, that's the end of my presentation. So hopefully that was helpful.
That was excellent.
Cool.
Yes, loved it. How do you feel about taking some questions?
Sure, absolutely.
I noticed that your mentors are all people that you've kind of built relationships with over time. And I think that, you know, even that statistic about like 75% of people don't have mentors, even though they think that they're good, or maybe more people have mentors than they think because they're in their circle. And so I wonder if people feel this pressure to like, get like a formal mentor where like I go up to some executive that I've never met before and say, hey, would you be my mentor? So I was just wondering if you personally have had any mentors that you didn't already have a relationship with, and if you recommend that.
I think you have to have a mix, right? So like I had a mentor and when I was at Lehman Brothers well before the bankruptcy. And it was like a professional business relationship. I kind of knew the woman, not well, but knew her. And I definitely got value out of it, but you know, you're in the office, it's in meetings. So I think if that was my only mentor, I probably wouldn't have gotten as much out of it. But when it was a healthy mix of different personalities, different backgrounds, I think being able to triangulate is very important. Like some of the folks that I listed there, I'll ask like 3 of them the same exact question, just to kind of hear their perspectives and what their personal experiences, what decision they would drive towards. And then you kind of form your own opinion. So yeah, I think you're right. Like people definitely have mentors and may not even realize it, but rounding it out with a professional mentor, if that's what you're missing, or rounding it out, the work therapist is the most underrated mentor you can.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh.
I mean, I think that goes back to your question, Brittany. And I think that a lot of people think that they don't have it when they do. It's like, it doesn't have to be some sort of like formal thing. It doesn't even have to be necessarily someone that's like higher ranked than you. You know, like I feel like I've had mentors that, you know, were obviously my bosses have been key into being mentors, but like people that have either been adjacent to me or reported to me or almost, you know, or previously reported to me, like, and they grew, you know, to just, I think Rita, you just described it with I love the slide where you lay out like the different ways that you had mentorship, because I felt like that's the piece that a lot of people miss, is the varied perspective is what makes you the whole. Like the point, I love the beginning of the story where you talk about how the mentor didn't give you the answers to the test. They gave you the homework that allowed you to then figure out what you didn't know and what you had to learn in order to know it. And like, that is the answer to the test. And then you go and find people that are going to help you through that journey of like someone that's inside the organization that can help you with something that's very close to it, somebody that's objective, that's outside the organization, somebody that's just there to like vent on the like emotional feelings, people side. Like those are all very important dynamics into being a leader, you know, and having your bases covered, I think really like is necessary to succeed. And like you laid that out beautifully, and it shines through on your thought process, your company, your trajectory. Like obviously, I think that's what makes this presentation so powerful, to see you as a result based off of like the blocks that you built from 25 to now.
It's
I
such
appreciate that. Thank you.
lesson. Yeah, it's such an important lesson. Like you go into this thinking, okay, like I'm gonna come out of this like getting inspired to like get a mentor or find a mentor. But no, it's like build like this portfolio kind of different people that you can extract different things from.
Yeah, there's no one person that has all the answers anyway, right?
Definitely not. That absolutely not. And that's something that I learned because I thought when I was younger, when I was 25, and I worked for a CEO, I thought he had all the answers. I thought I needed to be him. I tried to replicate him completely. And it honestly wasn't until I have my current CEO, who also acts as a mentor, who like when I first started working, probably a year in, he like, I feel like I was like, we were always following him around, and he turned around, he's like, you don't have to be me. You can be you. And, and we're alike, but we're very different. And, that giving me permission to say like, you don't have to be this because I'm not perfect. Like take what you can and take what you can from elsewhere. And I think that was like the aha moment for me, that like, I have something that no one has. He has something that no one has. And like, you got to go around and collect all the pieces in order to like make it to the finish line.
Yeah, and like on that topic, somebody taught me something from a like who to hire perspective, and they said hire people that are smarter than you. And I thought that was genius, and I think a lot of people do that. So if you work at a company where that's kind of the mindset, your boss already thinks you're smart. They already think you're good, right? Like you already are there. They brought you there for a reason, right? So if you work at a company with that kind of, like I said, mindset, you shouldn't be nervous or fearful, right? And you're right, you don't have to think like your boss. Like I would be, if everyone thought like me, we probably would fail. You need that balance. You need to debate. You need to throw crappy ideas out there, and then hopefully from there something beautiful will come, right? And you can't do that by yourself. No CEO knows everything. That's just BS.
Rita, thank you so much.
This pleasure. This is a lot of fun. Thank you for the conversation. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was so great. We learned so much. I have my notes. I'm going to definitely go back and watch the recording again. But yeah, we really appreciate you coming on.